Okay, so I wanted to do a follow-up video to the one that I did on my thoughts about the Neil Gaiman allegations. The reason why I wanted to do another one is that I feel like I didn't say what I wanted to say. And I said what I wanted to say, but I don't feel like I said enough of what I wanted to say. And basically, I wanted to expand it a little bit about celebrity, because I do have a genuine interest in celebrity. So I do love the Oscars. I absolutely believe the speeches when people roll their eyes and say, "Oh, it's another person that's just crying on stage." I'm not one of those people. I absolutely love the Oscars. Usually, I really enjoy it. I was a bit freaked out actually this year when I discovered I hadn't seen any of the films that had been nominated, and I thought that was a lesson to be learned there. I wasn't watching enough films, but I am interested in what the celebrities are like as real people, and I do give people the benefit of the doubt. I do believe that in interviews they are themselves, and I think it's a positive way of living. It's a positive way of looking at celebrity, a positive way of looking at strangers. I think it's a good thing to do, and I'm also, alongside that, I'm also actually quite cynical about the whole cancel culture thing as well. Anyway, so I did say how I honestly felt about the Neil Gaiman thing, and I did say that I wasn't going to necessarily go on about one of his books on the channel anymore if these allegations prove to be true, because obviously it's still an investigation, which I don't think the people that were commenting on my video got that I was saying that it could be that it's proven not to be true, but it certainly looks pretty damning at the moment. So some of them are saying that I'm kind of judging him already, and I'm not necessarily judging him already. I'll be over the moon if it's actually proved that it was total nonsense. That'd be great. But even though I said that, I am usually err on the side of caution, which is, I've heard these allegations for a while, so I was kind of doing that with this one, but I would do that even more with other things, and I do tend to separate the artist from the work, and I don't tend to get too involved, and it's the first time I've ever talked about it on my channel. But what I wanted to talk about in regards to that sort of thing now is this genuine interest I have in celebrities and what they really like, and I really love watching these round table discussions with actors. Vanity Fair and a few other YouTube channels do these things, and I absolutely love them. I watch them a lot, and I was just watching one today which had Robert Downey Jr., Andrew Scott, Paul Giamatti, Jeffrey Wright, Mark Ruffalo, and Coleman Domingo being interviewed together and chatting together. The atmosphere in the room and the whole video is fantastic, and there's a real rapport between them, and there's a great atmosphere. It's a really, really good example of this kind of round table discussion. I really enjoyed it. I couldn't turn it off, and I love that kind of thing. I used to love the Inside the Actors Studio stuff. Really, really missed that program, and I used to watch every one I could. And I love it when people that I like are on chat shows, and I tend to believe what they're like in a chat show is an insight into what they're like as real people. I do think that there is clearly an element of performance, absolutely. I have had a couple of situations where I've either supported a big act myself, or I've been at a festival where someone was playing just after us that were quite famous, and I've had a few examples, which I might tell you one day, of people that were clearly very fake in front of their fans, or were just miserable bastards. So I have done that myself. So I have seen that it is a performance for some people, but I do tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. And I was just watching this program, and I was just really, really enjoying it. And I thought, actually, I don't think it's necessarily a positive thing to think that everyone in Hollywood is dodgy, that everyone is a liar, and I did say that it can be a mistake to assume that all writers are great people, but I do think that it's also a little bit negative to assume that they are horrible people. as well. So that's one of the reasons why I felt like I wanted to do another video, because I think there's a lot of nuance with this, and I don't think it's a positive outlook on life to just assume that everyone's horrible, which I've seen sometimes in the comment section, and I've seen some people say that. And turning to some of the local things in the UK that have happened, Rolf Harris is a big story, was a big story of a celebrity over here that was absolutely loved by most people, a national treasure, and he proved to be horrendous. And what's interesting with Rolf Harris is people just didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. I played at a festival that he was headlining after the allegations had happened. So it hadn't been proven to be guilty. So he was still headlining this festival, and nobody gave him any shit. There was no booing. There was no sense that he was going through this allegation, and it actually proved to be true. Nobody believed it, because they're thinking, how can Rolf Harris be like that? He's an absolute national treasure. And he was one of the people when I was young that got me into cartooning and stuff as well. So, it was a shock. But again, I don't think that necessarily means that you automatically think that every celebrity that works for the BBC is a paedophile, which I've heard some people say. Some young people have said that in my classroom, and I've been teaching. They've just sort of come up with those kind of massive generalizations, and I just think that's awful. That's a really bad way of looking at the issue and celebrities and complete strangers and life. It's not a very positive way of looking at life, that everyone you don't know, you're assuming something horrendous about. And then I just wanted to add this extra nuance that I mentioned Charles Bukowski when I did that video. And one of the things I didn't say when I talked about him is I think it's an interesting element of my attitude to this sort of thing. When I don't think he was a nice person, he was an alcoholic, clearly, and alcohol was a huge part of his life. And I have actually got a massive issue with alcohol and alcoholism because of my childhood. I won't say too much, but I think I should probably say something rather than giving you half an anecdote. But basically, my father destroyed our family, and there's a lot of abuse in my childhood based around him. I haven't said much about it on the channel. I've kind of hinted it a few times, but basically, I've got permanent emotional scarring from that. I didn't have any alcohol until I was in my 30s. So, I would have every justification in being very negative about somebody so steeped in an alcoholic life, but I'm not. So it's just an interesting part of that nuance that when I think about Charles Bukowski, I am able to just read what's in front of me and not actually think about the person. So I don't know. I felt like I wanted to say all of that as an additional thing to what I said about Neil Gaiman. I don't suppose anywhere near the amount of people will see this video as the ones that saw the other one, but I do think it's a much more complicated issue for me because of those things I've said. And I do think it's a complicated issue for anyone, for everyone. I think it's a complicated thing, where the way we look at celebrity, and I just think it's more positive to just not assume that everyone's horrible, but I guess not assume that everyone is angelic either. I mean, the other thing as well I was going to mention is the some of the songwriting heroes that I have are songwriting heroes because they have been a big part of my makeup as my belief system and my attitude to politics and people and life, and my attitude to doing the right thing and leaving a mark and all that kind of thing. So two people that I wanted to mention here from that perspective would be John Mellencamp and Peter Garrett from Midnight Oil. So John Mellencamp is a huge hero of mine, and again, he is someone I wouldn't expect any kind of horrendous allegations to come out about. Same with Peter Garrett. Peter Garrett is my favourite frontman. He's a real inspiration, and I guess that's the thing. These two people are inspirations to me as a songwriter. But I think there is nothing wrong with me looking positively about them, and I guess it's because their lyrics are so personally written, whereas fiction, when authors write short stories and novels, they're not writing about themselves, whereas songs tend to be from their first person perspective, especially political writing. Bruce Coburn's another one. Bruce Coburn is a Canadian songwriter that has had a huge impact on my life. But again, his lyrics are they're not stories so much. They are stories, but they're coming from his personal experience and his personal incentive to do something positive in the world. So yeah, I do think that's part of it as well. So I definitely see those people in a positive light. And I don't suppose I thought of Neil Gaiman like that really necessarily, but as some people have been saying on their videos, when you see someone that much and they give off that kind of positive vibe, then yeah, you do assume that they're not going to get accused of these kind of things. But again, I feel like I ought to stress, because some people missed that on that previous video. I am well aware that these are allegations. He's not proven guilty yet, and it would be fantastic if it proves to be false accusations. And if that's true, then yeah, I'll do a video on my favorite Gaiman stories. I don't know, but for now, we'll have to see what happens. But I wanted to talk about celebrity for a bit, I guess, and my more layered, complex attitude to the whole thing. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay curious, everybody.